the truth yesterday? Not exactly the required 2 metres apart. The media and police scrum around the Prime Minister's most powerful advisor, Dominic Cummings, at 8:45 this morning. He's determined not to resign for leaving his London home when he and his wife had coronavirus symptoms, but he can't be confident he won't eventually be sacked. Especially since almost 40 Tory MPs, under pressure from their constituents, do think he has to go. Including this rather important one, a minister in the Scottish office no less, who's also a professional referee and is absolutely clear Cummings deserves the red card.
I am faced with people who have missed funerals, people who couldn't be with loved ones as they were being treated or sadly died, and I can't therefore look at them in the eye and say they were wrong and Mr Cummings was right.
But the Health Secretary begs to differ.
My judgment, which is the same as the Prime Minister's judgment, is that what Mr Cummings did was within the guidelines. After all, the guidelines allow for exceptional circumstances, particularly with regard to childcare.
Secretary of State, you and your wife tested positive for COVID-19. You have 3 young children, but you chose to stay at home in London. What is the relevant difference between you and Dominic Cummings?
The relevant difference, Robert, is that we had childcare readily available at home and Mr Cummings didn't. Thanks very much.
Well, that was me told. But if Cummings didn't break the rules, Martin Poole, a vicar in Brighton, wants justice for others.
Will the government review all penalty fines imposed on families travelling for childcare purposes during lockdown?
We do understand the impact and the need for making sure that children get adequate childcare. That is one of the significant concerns that we've had all the way through this. And so I think, especially coming from a man of the cloth, I think that is perfectly reasonable to take away that question. I'll have to talk to my Treasury colleagues before I can answer it in full, and we'll look at it.
And an Oxford professor of primary care is unimpressed.
This is going to cause confusion, it's going to reduce the trust in the government, and it's going to condone all sorts of breaches of whatever policy comes out next. I'm predicting middle of June we will see an uptick in the deaths.
Barnard Castle today, where Cummings and his wife admitted they drove as one apparent breach of the quarantine rules. The other alleged breaches were leaving the London home with his wife Mary Wakefield and their 4-year-old son when both had symptoms, and going into work in Downing Street when he first thought his wife was ill. Now, strikingly, tonight the former Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt, who's been influential throughout the crisis, said, "I am afraid I'm not going to add my voice to the list of those calling for him to resign. I'm also not convinced that politics gains much from the spectacle of scalp hunting." So against the normal rules of politics, Dominic Cummings may yet keep his job. Now, he clearly thinks so.
I've already answered the question.
But tomorrow is the big test when senior Conservative MPs ask the Prime Minister to explain why his powerful advisor is so important to him.